Major League Baseball's trade deadline is just a few weeks away, and the closer market is finally starting to heat up. Welcome into the Upside Sports Network. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate those of you who have returned. Welcome back, Willard. Absolutely, the Astros are indeed on fire. Rangers got a win in that division as well. That's going to be honestly a division to watch all the way down to the end. Are the Astros going to be able to get to the postseason for their one last real chance at a World Series? Do the Rangers capitalize on the success they had last year and make another run into the postseason and have another Cinderella run all the way to the World Series and win it once again? Remains to be seen. Then, of course, the Mariners. Probably the best pitching staff here early in the season. Will they be able to add some hitting here at the deadline and be able to hold on and win this division and kind of secure their place atop the division for years to come? But as far as the trade deadline goes, we want to focus tonight on the closer market, or relief market, if you will. There's only a few closers I expect that will actually have an impact here at the deadline. Now, we mentioned the Rangers just a moment ago that they could make a run and, of course, get into the playoffs. But if they don't, Kirby Yates has really solidified himself as another closer to keep your eyes on. Additionally, you have David Robertson, who has some closing experience, who is also expected to be made available if the Rangers fall out of contention. But as of right now, there's only a few names to really look at that are currently on the block. You look at guys like Carlos Estevez from the Angels. You also look at Scott from the Marlins. There's a few other guys I'm keeping my eyes on, like David Bednar from the Pirates as well. Boston, if they decide to move off of Jansen. There's a few arms out there that could really be difference makers come October, so we'll see where they ultimately go. Now, of course, every team that is trying to make a run into the postseason always wants to add a top-notch relief arm. If they can get a closer, even better, but they always want to add at least one bullpen arm. It just seems like every single contender, every single year, doesn't say their bullpen is good enough and just moves on to another issue on their roster. They always seem to want to address that bullpen, so that's somewhere I want to keep my eyes peeled for. The one big name that I haven't mentioned yet is Mason Miller of the Oakland Athletics. Now, he's got several years of control left on his deal, relatively inexpensive guy for the next 3 years of that deal. I would love to see him get traded here at the deadline, primarily for the Oakland A's. I just don't think he's going to be there for them long term, and I'm not sure this level of success is sustainable for him. One, because of injury, and two, it's just a very short track record, a very small sample size of what his success has been. But he's been one of the best relievers in the game. Blue Jays are another team that could have traded a guy like Jordan Romano at the deadline. He is out 6 weeks right now, and I'm not expecting to be back, obviously, by the trade deadline. Could he be dealt and, come back for somebody as far as a September call-up? Absolutely, but I'm not envisioning something like that for the Blue Jays. Yemi Garcia would be another one that could be a good one for the Jays to move off of. Good point there, Mark, anyway. I appreciate you guys joining us once again. If you guys haven't hit that like the video already, please do so. Really does help us out. I know a few of you already have, so thank you for that. But those are a couple of the arms I'm keeping an eye on here at the deadline. A couple other arms from the Rockies. They have a couple of guys that they're talking about right now, and that's Cal Quantrill, starter, of course, Austin Gomber. They've got some other arms in that bullpen that could be available, but the difference makers really are going to be the closers, I believe, this year. There's going to be a number of them that are on the market, and I think the teams that really want a chance to win a World Series should be, or at least in my mind, would be wise to pick up on one of those guys. Now, One I wanted to mention earlier anyway was David Bednar. I just really like the track record of success that he has. He's on a short-term injury right now. The cost is going to be prohibitive for some teams to acquire him anyway, but he's probably the most consistent closer that could be available with the longest track record of success of the guys that are available. He probably has one of the higher price points as well. Mason Miller, understandably, has a little bit higher because of that controllability of his deal. So kind of keep your eyes peeled for both of those guys. But Bednar would be my choice as the guy I want in October if I'm looking for a bullpen arm at this deadline season. Now, the Yankees are said to be a team that's touched base with Mason Miller, as far as Mason Miller is concerned, with the Oakland A's, as well as a couple of other targets as well. The San Diego Padres are another team that's been said to be looking at bullpen arms here at the deadline. So let us know in the comment section which closer you have your eyes peeled for, and we'll kind of go through those as well. Let's go ahead and flip our screen around for you guys. We'll go ahead and pull up some of the stats right now. We'll go to some pitching stats. We'll go to closed. Hold on. Where's my. There it is. Save opportunities. Okay. So we'll start here and kind of work our way down this list and just see who may or may not be available. Before the season, there was some talk about Emmanuel Clase being available. Same thing with Ryan Helsley. Both of those guys are on contending teams right now, contending for playoff positioning, World Series, whatever you want to call it. Those players are not going to be available. Kyle Finnegan has had 27 save opportunities. He's converted 23 of them. Not really a proven guy, though, when it comes to October baseball. He's performed a few times there before, but I'm not sure he'd be my first choice to go ahead and add to a bullpen. I would look towards some of the other closers that are out there on the market. Craig Kimbrell, obviously on a contending team. Same thing, Clay Holmes, Raisel Iglesias, Robert Suarez, all guys that are not going to be dealt here at the deadline. Doval would be an interesting one. I think the Giants' opportunity to trade him was last year. I don't think they move him this year. I think that Farhan Zaidi is trying to compete this year and try to save his job. Otherwise, I think the smart move would have been to trade him last year at the trade deadline and really get a nice haul for him. Right now, he's got a 4 ERA, kind of up and down so far this year. He's still a good pitcher, good term on that deal as well. I like Doval as a pitcher, but I don't think that the Giants would be able to get a fair price for him if they did decide to sell. And with Farhan Zaidi's job on the hot seat, or job on the line anyway, here at the deadline, I'm not expecting them to move him. Same thing, Diaz. They're a team that's on the up and up. I would not expect them to trade their closer right now. And then you get to David Bednar. Once the Pirates anyway announced that they're going to sell at the deadline, which I expect them to do. They are a team that, knocked the cover off the ball today against the Mets. I mean, they had, 7+ home runs, ran out of fireworks for how many home runs they hit. But let's be real, they are, really playing above their heads. They're really kind of relying on their 2 young starters right now, and they would be wise to move off of some of their 1-year contracts that they acquired in the offseason. We knew when they signed them that those pieces would likely be traded at the deadline, and they should be able to fetch a pretty penny on the open market. They have a lot of guys who've played postseason baseball on that roster. Bednar has not, but he's probably been the most consistent closer over, say, the last 3-4 years anyway, since he's come up. He's at a 5 ERA right now. His price probably is about as low as you can possibly expect it to get if you're hoping to acquire him. But the price is still going to be steep. There is still some control there with that contract. He would be the guy I would go for. He's converted 16 out of 19 opportunities. I just think getting him as a 8th inning setup guy or as your closer if you don't really have one in your contending team, he would be the guy I would go for. Carlos Estevez has pitched well once again. Really performed well last year as well for the Angels. But you look at his save opportunities, 16 of 19 converted. 3 ERA, having a little bit greater success. Really strong fastball there. And he would be a name I would consider more as an 8th inning guy. I think he would do better in that type of a role as opposed to a closer in a postseason situation. Not saying he couldn't do it. I just think for his first taste at it, it'd be wise for him to go into an 8th inning setup type of a role for a team that needs one of those guys. James MacArthur, 4 ERA. I don't think he's going to generate much interest here at the deadline. I think there's other one-year deals that the Royals did sign this offseason that would be better fits here at the deadline, but they're still 7+ games up above 500 right now. I'm not expecting them to really sell yet. I think once the realization hits that they're not necessarily a contending team, that at best they might win the division, they might just stand pat and hold on to those guys that are on one-year deals and try to get them to another, one-year deal next year. Trevor McGill out in Milwaukee, he's converted 18 out of 19, but remember Devin Williams is their everyday closer, and he's due to be coming back here in the next week or so, and then they'll have a really good 1-2 punch at the back end of their bullpen. So they might be one of the few teams that's out there that is a postseason type of team that might not add to their bullpen, but rather to their starting rotation. Kenley Jansen, we mentioned the Red Sox are kind of around 500, a little bit above that right now. But the teams that have run away with that division, the Orioles and the Yankees, are just so far out in front. The Red Sox best case right now is to win a wild card, and are you really hoping for a wild card if you're a Red Sox front office member? I mean, this is a proud franchise. They expect World Series when they get to the postseason. I think they'll see the writing on the wall and say, hey, we're not necessarily there. We need to add to this core, build up their starting staff still, and kind of go forward from there. Tampa Bay Rays, I've already announced they're going to be selling a little bit here at the deadline. I'm not expecting them to completely go into sell mode, but they could still peddle a few more pieces. Pete Fairbanks qualifies as one of those pieces. So far, 14 out of 16 converted, a 3.23 ERA, and he's pitched much better than that over the last couple of years. He's been a really nice surprise for that Rays organization to kind of really develop him into a really strong late-inning situation type of arm. The question is, when he gets out of Tampa Bay, is he still going to have that same effectiveness? Might drive down his price, but if teams are desperate for some relief help, if some of these other teams ultimately decide, hey, we're going to hold on to our pieces, if Pittsburgh says, hey, we're going to go ahead and keep Bednar once again, then maybe the price for Pete Fairbanks goes up and they get a little bit more for him, and then we will see a deal for Fairbanks there. Detroit, Jason Foley's your closer there, 14 out of 16 converted, 3.26 ERA. Detroit doesn't have a whole lot to sell this year. They're kind of a team stuck in the middle. If they move him, they move him, but he's not necessarily a difference maker here at the deadline. Mason Miller, he's been probably one of the best swing and miss type of a pitcher so far this year. His stuff has been that good, that dynamic, 14 out of 16 converted. Tells me he struggles in some tough late inning situations, but his stuff is absolutely electric. You worry about the health and the mindset, the mentality to be able to handle a stretch run down a pennant chase, October baseball, World Series games. Those are the big question marks for Mason Miller. But for the A's, that swing and miss stuff will play, and I think he'll be fine wherever he does go. It might just take him a little bit of an adjustment to get used to those situations. Jose Alvarado not going anywhere on the best team in baseball. Josh Hader not going anywhere on the hottest team in baseball right now in Houston. Andres Munoz is on the number one team in the AL West in the Seattle Mariners, a 1.59 ERA. He's pitched very well. Hector Neris has been in Houston the last couple of years. He's their closer this year, 11 saves out of 15 opportunities. Tells me he's not really a closer anymore at this point in his career. He's more of a 6th, 7th inning reliever rather than an 8th inning setup guy, at least in my mind. But pitching to a 4 ERA, he does have some success being able to handle postseason baseball. He would be one name to kind of keep in mind as a reliever, maybe not necessarily as a closer if you're a team in need of one of those guys. Jalen Beeks, good young pitcher anyway, 4 ERA for Colorado, but again, pitching in Colorado, take it with a grain of salt. 8 out of 14 converted, not exactly a great rate there. I don't expect them to move on from Beeks. If the Twins had been out of contention, I could have seen Duran probably being the most valuable closer on the market this year. He is that dominant when he does take the hill. But 3.38 ERA so far this year, 13 out of 14 converted. He is not going anywhere on a team that figures to be going down to the wire with the Guardians for the AL Central. Tanner Scott, we mentioned that the Miami Marlins were already in sell mode. They already sold off Luis Arraez. 12 of 14 converted, a 1.46 ERA. He has been absolutely great this year. Really elevated his trade stock as well this year. And I would not be surprised to see him moved for at least one top 100 prospect and maybe a couple of other nice pieces along with it. He should fetch a pretty price for the Marlins this deadline season. Evan Phillips, of course, for the Dodgers, not going anywhere. We'll move on to the second page here. Just kind of round out our top 30 to 40 names here. Kopech is on the White Sox. Anything that's not nailed down with the White Sox could be on the move. 4.58 ERA isn't going to fetch a whole lot, but if the White Sox just want to turn the page and move on from him, maybe they just try to sell high on a plus fastball and just take what they can get. Paul Sewald for the Diamondbacks, if they continue a little bit of a slide here, he could be a name that could be moved here at the deadline. 11 of 12 converted anyway, a 1.56 ERA. Obviously went to the World Series last year with that Diamondbacks team. He should catch a fair price if the D-backs decide to sell at the deadline. I don't think they'll do that. I think they will try to move off of that Jordan Montgomery deal if they can, but I'm not expecting them to trade any other major pieces to this team. Kirby Yates, remember I told you guys off the top, if the Rangers do continue their up and down play as of late, then the Rangers could ultimately decide to sell. He's been fantastic. A .89 ERA, has that pedigree. Former closer turned closer once again here with the Texas Rangers on a 1-year inexpensive deal as well. 12 of 12 converted. The only issues he's really had is when he comes in the ninth inning in a tie game. I think he's gotten used to being in that closer role once again, and he looks good back there. So for teams needing a closer specifically here at the deadline, if the Rangers sell, that would be the guy I would want as well. Edwin Diaz is available for the Mets, I would believe, but that money is just absolutely an albatross. His numbers don't look as good as they did in previous years. Had the injury issues, has the foreign substance issues. Just a little bit of a headache if you're another team looking to acquire a guy like Edwin Diaz. The great stuff is there when he's not using the sticky stuff, when he's healthy, those kinds of things, but his performance just hasn't been good enough to warrant a trade for that type of contract at this point for teams who might be contending. Jeff Hoffman in Philadelphia, not going anywhere, obviously there. Griffin Jack's not going anywhere for Minnesota. That kind of rounds out your top 30. Let us know in the comments section which names you guys are keeping your eyes peeled for here at the deadline. We'll get into some more trade deadline stuff early parts of next week. If there's some big news that happens over the weekend, we'll let you guys know as well and do an emergency live for you guys there. Make sure you guys follow us over on TikTok or on Twitter anyway, or X, or whatever they want to call themselves anyway, at UpsideSN, and you can find us on Facebook at the Upside Sports Network. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Sorry for the late start tonight. Flying solo here at the Upside this week, and we'll be again next week, so it will be probably more later starts than what we usually would do, but we will try to keep you guys as updated as we possibly can. Really appreciate all the support you guys have given us over the last couple years, and thankful for our growing community that we've gained. So y'all have a great evening. We'll be live with you guys again on Monday. We'll try to do an NBA live for you guys on the weekend to kind of recap free agency. Players are able to sign their deals, I believe, tomorrow, so we should start to see some of those free agency contracts become official. We'll try to do a kind of a wrap-up for NHL free agency as well, if we are able to. I'm not sure if we'll get to that one or not, but again, Major League Baseball Hot Stove Daily will be back on Monday around 9:30. We'll see you guys then. Y'all have a great weekend.